Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where we are back to talking about comics. We're gonna finish Avengers versus X-Men today, Gary. Kind of. We're gonna see the big
the
ending,
aftermath,
the big ending, the big climatic point that we've been talking about. And welcome back, everybody. We took a brief break to talk about some MCU stuff. We hope you enjoyed that, but we're talking about comic books now. So bring out your pocket protectors and your taped together sunglasses because we're back to nerd stuff.
Nerd Zone. Unlike the Hawkeye limited series on Disney Plus, which is pure Chad material.
Absolutely.
There's
totally
nothing nerdy
Chad.
about that.
Nothing nerdy about it whatsoever.
Yeah. Goofing off about the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. It's incredibly cool behavior.
And I feel in a real weird way that's kind of like I feel like the MCU is such a like juggernaut that it's like not even like nerdy at this point, right?
It's not
like
dorky at all.
Yeah.
If I ever had to go back to an office job, the first thing I would do is find some bro I could talk about Marvel movies with, because it would just be some Gen Pop guy who loves sports and I would have nothing else in common with him. But I bet you he liked Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
And I would at least have that common ground. Like, this would be a golden age to be a nerd in gym class because you could at least bond over something very common.
I think the problem would be it would be hard not to nerd out too much and make all of the jocks hate you again because you'd be like, well, let me tell you what happens with Scarlet Witch in the comics.
Yeah.
And this is why I think the mutants
in the comics or in the canon, like you immediately get stuffed into a locker or like dumped like a ball. You know?
We don't talk about the canon here, dork. Clank.
Nerd. Movies only. Virgin.
Take it to AO3.
Yeah. I am very curious as to the comics that come after this. Mm-hmm. There's the little miniseries Consequences, which I want to see who it's written by and at least check out the first one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, whether we cover it or not, because I'll be curious to see what happens. Like, this leaves open some cool dangling plot lines and stuff. And I have mixed feelings about the crossover in general, which we'll talk about in a couple issues when we talk about number 12. But for now, though, we get this weird Mary Sue comic that feels like it's written like we're talking about Wolverine the X-Men number 16 today.
Mm-hmm.
How much is this bending over backwards to make these kids seem cool?
And
like, how edgelord and irritating is this?
Missing it by a fucking mile too. So like, we haven't really talked about these guys a lot on the podcast, but in Wolverine and the X-Men, the Hellfire Club gets taken over by these 4 rich kids that are all like 12 and under.
Yep.
And it feels like something out of that. I'm really surprised American McGee's name isn't written on this thing somewhere, right? Like it feels
American McGee's Young American Psycho.
Yeah, absolutely. Or American McGee's Natural Born Killers, but they're young. Because it's like a computer guy. And it's a chick that's like super violent and like quote
She's
unquote
like an
psychotic.
Invader Zim character.
Yeah,
like I hate her. I hate her.
The other kid, I don't even know what his like unique thing is besides being black, which seems weird.
No, they're just color coded. There's two leaders.
Yeah,
there's a white guy with a black suit and a black guy with a white suit.
Yeah,
it's really weird. Like he's like, I don't know. I think we should do that. He just like plus ones. Whatever the leader says.
And then the main dude, who is Cade Kilgore, is and we're gonna spend this entire book talking about how fucking hardcore he is, how fucking just violent he is, just how fucking cool he is.
What an unfeeling sociopath he is. Like, This is a guy. He's a skull on a high school notebook cover, but made into a character.
He is like every single dude that I met that was into heavy metal, like that was like a few years older than me. And when I found out that their heavy metal was just like Kiss and Metallica, I was just confused. You know what I'm saying? Like they were like headbanging to Kiss, and I'm like, this is just fucking like party. What are you doing? Like this is I don't like this.
Classic rock. This is old man rock.
Yeah, what are you doing? This is bad. I don't like
it's So when I read Wolverine the X-Men and made my first run up at it, which got stalled by when it got into AVX because I didn't want to read AVX at the time. These guys were the villains, and I kind of see like why it might be a little bit interesting as a thing, like just a little bit, you know, when they first appeared, because it felt mysterious. You know, it's like, oh, this is the Hellfire Club, and they're all these like little Joffreys, you know, but they're not. They're just they're not kids in any way.
Yeah.
There's nothing other than how they look. They may as well be like, you know, the Wolverine villain Cyber trapped in a kid's body or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it feels like a novelty choice to me. And when you're from the outside, when you're dealing with these guys as antagonists, it feels a lot better than it does when we're doing something from their perspective. This is selling me so hard on Cade Kilgore that it puts me off. It's like closing past the sale really hard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the whole prison sequence that we're going to talk about is just fucking vile. Like, it's just awful.
Yeah, it's so irritating.
I was reading it, and I'm like, just the whole time I'm like, I don't want to talk about this. I almost texted you. I was like, Gary, I don't think you should read this. Like, I think this might be too irritating for you to read.
It's related. The Phoenix Five show up.
Yes.
But it's not. Yeah, but they just act like idiots in the face of this Mary Sue character that Jason Aaron wrote, who created. And I like Jason Aaron. Like, I've said it before, like, his Wolverine run, I think, is really good. The light comedy of this book and kind of Invader Zimminess really puts me off.
Yeah.
I like that it's the school. You know, I like him as a teacher. I like him as a headmaster and getting that kind of recognition. I just don't like Kid Gladiator, and I don't like these kids. Like, they're kids. I like kids in X-Men, but I feel like the difference between this and the Morrison era of the school is that they were written like kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back then, and these just no kids feel like kids in this.
I don't know anything about Jason Aaron's personal life, but like, if you contrast some of the stuff that I've read in the X-Men universe, it doesn't feel like he has ever seen a teenager. Like, he's just not ever associated with a single teenager or a child in his entire life. And like, he may have kids. I have no idea. Like, I'm not, but it just, that is the way that it feels to me, because this book is, these kids specifically just feel like such fucking caricatures of what you would want them to be.
What's weird is he writes adults like kids. Like, all the stuff with Husk and Toad, like their little romance, like writing for teens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, it's like the X-Men are teens, but the teens are adults and the babies are elderly. You know, it's like nothing is what it seems in the age mixed up world of Jason Aaron.
Babies are elderly. I got a bunch of elderly babies over here.
Yeah. This X-Men's power is progeria. It's fucking sad. Let's get into it. Let's cruise through it. These shitheads.
So the cover is actually pretty good, but it doesn't have anything to do with the book. It's just these four kids standing on over some broken up Sentinels with like some dead X-Men at the bottom, which does not actually happen. Wolverine, I don't even think shows up in this book. So yeah,
no,
good job.
We should mention too. So the other person who does the art on these has been Chris Picallo, or he's doing it on this issue. I don't think he's done it for all of them. This is good Chris Picallo stuff.
Yeah,
I'm a Chris Picallo defender. The art in this book is actually pretty good.
Yes,
this is good work on his behalf.
The
credit where it is due.
I was able to understand the frames and figure out the narrative without any extra help. So good job, Chris Picallo. You did it right this time. We start 2 weeks ago in the current timeline, which I guess justifies the fact that all five Phoenix guys show up. So we're going to start in the Indian Ocean, where they have set up a spot for all of the leaders of the world to come in and buy Sentinels, essentially different brands of Sentinels, which is probably like the best part of this book overall, is when we get introduced to all of the different versions.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
But there's just like, if you look on this first page and you look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 text bubbles that Cade Kilgore has, it's awful. Like, it's just a bunch of like really purple prose that I don't like.
Yeah. It's you know, meant to be very cool. And he's talking directly to the reader. He's breaking the fourth wall, telling us how cool he is, how he's powerful he is. Everyone in the free world has to bow to him. They don't show their face. They're all wearing black Klansman hoodies on their way there, drinking out of bendy straws. And he's just real cool, and they have to pay. We get our little tour of the Sentinels. We get like the suitcase Sentinel, which I like the idea of that. Just a Sentinel that's the same size as a person.
Yep.
A tank Sentinel, which I like a lot.
I love this tank Sentinel. I think this is like one of my favorite Sentinel designs ever. It's
really cool.
It's very like I'm gonna like I can put a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle on the back of this and have a really good time on my floor on Saturday morning. You know what I'm saying? Like,
the Sentinels would hunt the TMNT, right? Like they are mutants.
They are mutants, absolutely. There's got to be. There's got to be a crossover.
There's got to be a crossover.
There's got to be a crossover.
Yeah. The Nano Sentinels from Grant Morrison's run are there. And then they have the Tri-Sentinel, powered, of course, with a miniaturized nuclear reactor. The Tri-Sentinel just has 3 arms and 2 faces. It's so dumb. Like,
it's so stupid. But again, this is probably like my favorite gag of the whole thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Like my favorite stuff.
Yeah, he says at the end, he's like, he's talking about how business has been really good for him because of the Phoenix 5. Everyone is buying Sentinels because there are God-powered X-Men around. The X-Men are coming, and he's like, hey, you should buy stuff. You're going to regret it if you don't. And then the Phoenix 5 burst in through the roof.
Yep. I had missed that there was a 2 weeks ago tag on this, so I was very confused as to why all of them were here. But yeah, now it makes a lot more sense now. And they proceed to start blowing the place up. But they're destroyed all of the Sentinels, and Kilgore decides he's not going to run away because he doesn't run away. It's not in his nature. He is going to face them down.
Little Psycho Girl's like, I love the smell of burning people. That's like, again, it's very Invader Zim.
It's also like very Zack Snyder in a way that is just where it's real grim, dark, like, but also trying to be edgy and cool at the same time.
This is a weird thing too. It's a pet peeve. So the little tech kid of the Hellfire Club, his little asides are really irritating to me because they just exaggerate everything to seem cool. So like he's like, these Sentinels weren't designed to fight cosmic powered X-Men. I'll need another week and a few more $1 billion for that. And then later he's like, while I was in jail, I came up with 19 new Sentinel designs. Like the way that geniuses are written sometimes is real tricky. Like I feel like it's a really tough thing to get right, and this little if this wasn't bending over its back to make me think everything is cool, maybe this would have been all right.
Yeah. Like,
oh, he's just a hyper smart kid, but they're all hyper competent and hyper, invincible and hyper, special. Yes. Like there's no contrast in this. It also does the thing, or I was going to say the other thing is in this next scene, it's doing the thing that is a classic Mary Sue. So like a Mary Sue is when you create a character that is like an author stand-in or is like your pet character. And there's a thing that they used to do on Star Trek Next Generation to show that an alien was tough was have him come up and beat Worf. And here they have to have these 4 little kids outsmart and outmaneuver the Phoenix powered X-Men, who have been the antagonist of the entire crossover, effortlessly, just like outmaneuver them. And it just feels so transparent as a way to show how cool and dangerous they are.
My big problem with this is it spends, and I know this is like maybe kind of a tired take at this point, but the comic book does spend the entire time telling us about how cool these people are and no time showing us whatsoever. Like it just never, and every time anybody in this book does something cool, it's because, hey, I would like to pay you money to do something for me. Like that's it. Like there's no, you have that line about I came up with 19 new Sentinel designs or whatever. It would have just been cooler if we saw him drawing the designs at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't. Yeah. It's the braggadociousness, and I know he's supposed to be an obnoxious character. Like I know that's the goal, but like it just goes so far over the top that it's just very irritating. Also, the moment where like the Hellfire Club arrives and Cyclops is like, "Children, tell me where the Hellfire Club is," and
I will protect you.
Jesus Christ!
Like, are you being coerced? Are they your pimp?
There is a good moment because Cyclops and Kilgore kind of face off with each other, and Kilgore's of course being like very dismissive and being very childlike and like jabbing at Cyclops. But I love the line is like, Cyclops is like, there's no place in this new world for things like you. And the kid's like smoking like a true fascist. Come on, I'm starting to really like you. And the look on Cyclops' face after this is like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah, he gets pretty pissed at the stuff. the idea, he says this, and Emma can read their minds, even though, Cyclops can also read their minds, as the Phoenix, is saying like, no, these kids are absolutely depraved monsters. We should kill them. Again, just building them up, they find out that they are the ones who sent the giant sentinel to Utopia, which is what caused the schism.
Yes.
In the schism crossover. So these little kids are the reason why Wolverine went and started his own little school. Sucks. And Cyclops kind of brags about sending them to jail. Now, it's been well established that the X-Men have their own jail.
Yes.
Now, it's called the X-Brig.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, though, he sends them to Rikers Island, where they do something that the Kingpin would have done or any other rich character would have done. It reminds me of how the Venture Brothers writes for Augustus St. Cloud.
Yes, absolutely.
Where like money is superpower, which works in the Venture Brothers because it's a comedy show. But here, how many millionaires have been sent to Rikers Island? In this thing, the fact that he can just be like, I'll pay people to cause a riot and let me escape, and it just works. That's getting a little ahead of ourselves, but it drives me fucking nuts. It's Cyclops being stupid, and it's these characters doing something and acting like it's the coolest thing in the world that any number of characters would have done if it felt possible in this universe.
I realize that I'm reading a comic book about like superpowered mutant people or whatever, and like teenage or like 12-year-olds with billions of dollars. But like, also, it is extremely weird that the Riker thing specifically really fucking bugged me, because it is extremely weird that like they would just like, did he just drop him off at the front door? Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
We're the
like,
Phoenix Five.
Yeah, here's
arraign these children.
Here's a child, and the people were just like, yes, sir, Mr. Cyclops, sir. Like, okay, we will take this child in and give them a cell, I guess. Also, a girl is here. Like, there's a literal child. I don't know, man. It's just so
little
fucking
11-year-old girl. It doesn't make any sense. I don't. It doesn't. They shouldn't have done Rikers Island.
Yeah.
It's also, there's a huge prison break in Rikers Island that happens here, which is the inciting incident of New Avengers, that comic, and is a big deal.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it is just a little side thing. There's no consequences in this other than us thinking Kid Kilgore is cool.
Yep.
That is the only intended thing that this book intends to accomplish.
And I just want to say too, yeah. I despise the whole you need to go into jail and beat up the biggest, toughest looking dude or whatever. And then as he's like talking to the reader, we get his background story, which is that he hates he hated his dad or whatever. I don't know, dude. Like, his dad killed his mom because his mom was mouthy or something, so he just decided that his dad was going to kill him, and he started paying people on the street to kill people for all of this.
He was a psychopath before all this too. They show him like killing butterflies alive. And he didn't say his first word until he's 5 because he was too bored, because he was already a hyper genius.
I fucking hate it, dude. I'm off.
It's very irritating. The idea of this little montage of him hiring people to kill and then killing them is supposed to be him like getting used to murder, and him just being like, I never once vomited. I never felt bad. It just got easier and easier, ... and more fun. It is like a hot topic come to life.
Yes, 100% agreed. Yes, it is.
It's so obnoxious.
It is what every single like Baptist Southern fucking preacher thought that heavy metal and Dungeons and Dragons would do to a child.
Yes.
Like, it is literally that, where it's like this dude is going to hiring he's doing bum fights. He's basically doing bum fights.
Yeah. That's Sweet Tooth, a serial killer clown. Like, this fucking juggalo X-Men villain. And somebody is going to respond to this, because I cannot escape people correcting my opinion lately.
That's true.
That
you've had a good run.
Supposed to be just. I've had a really good run of just nonstop parade of people correcting my opinion. Someone is going to say he's meant to be obnoxious.
I literally just did. Yeah.
No, I mean, as an excuse, like, the comic is working because you're meant to hate him, but there's a difference between like good hate and bad hate. Like there's a fun hate. There's a delicious evil that you can hate somebody and be like, oh, that's so fucking gross and such a prick. And I mentioned it earlier, and it's, the quality of the show notwithstanding, like, kind of my gold standard for that is Joffrey in Game of Thrones. who you watch that and you're just like, oh, this guy's gotta fucking die. This guy sucks so bad, but he's like exciting and he makes sense. He's unpredictable. You know, he's not cool. He's, you know, there's nothing cool about him. He's just scary and, you know, weird and feels plausible. Like there have been many times in the history of the world where some little kid is raised to a high station ahead of their time, not because they're a super genius, but because of consequences beyond their control. And they do evil because they don't know better, because that's how kids work.
Yep.
They're not the smartest person in the room in every room they're in when they're 10.
Yeah. And they do a really good job
very
of like
different.
humanizing Joffrey into because he starts making terrible decisions like a child would if you put him in control of a fucking kingdom. Like he's a petulant child, and they never pull that with this kid. Like he never, unless it's going to happen 10 issues, unless Jason Aaron's master plan for fucking Cade Kilgore is going to happen 30 issues down the line or whatever. But in the meantime, I'm just trying to read some AVX, and there's just not a lot of it in this. And it just sucks. Like it's just not very fun to read, in my opinion. So his dad is a member of the Hellfire Club. He takes 8-year-old Cade to the Hellfire Club thing, which seems great.
You'll get exposed to some dominatrixes.
Can you imagine?
You're never too old.
Can you imagine if Tom Cruise had just brought a child to that party in Eyes Wide Shut?
Eyes Wide Shut.
Like the dude at the door is like, I didn't tell you. I mean, it says +1, but we assume that you understood what we were doing here.
Bring your partner. It's not bring your family day.
Yeah. I mean, if you have to bring a dude, that's fine. But we thought you were going to bring Nicole Kidman. Like that's the whole reason you got to invite.
Can you imagine in your wildest dreams being 8 years old and then presented with Emma, like being eye level at Emma Frost crotch? Like in that, like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is like human growth hormone, like as a social event. So he's there and he's been planning to kill his father for a while. His father goes off to bang.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes a big announcement to everyone. You know, you don't like my father. He's a jerk. I'll kill him if you make me your leader. And they're like, you can't kill him because you'll lose your fortune and those in your connections. My understanding is that like in the Hellfire Club, there's lots of skullduggery, you know?
Yeah.
I think that there's lots of backstabbing and killing jerks in the Hellfire Club. Nobody's worried about that kind of shit. They laugh. They're like, we're not going to do it until he points out to another guy is his father's toady.
Yeah.
There. And they're playing, he accuses his father and the toady of planning to take over the Hellfire Club.
Yes. And then it just cuts to like the dad coming out being like, hey, I'm a party guy. My shirt is unbuttoned now because I've been having the sex, everybody. And the kid says like, you know, hey, a few days after that, I killed my father. And then a few days after that, I killed the rest of the Hellfire Club. And
Everyone.
I'm like, okay,
cool.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad that we don't get to see that at all or have you like, I don't even know that I'm worried about you doing it. I just like, how? Like, you don't have, it's a lot of guys. It's just a lot of guys to kill. Like, I'm just.
A lot of guys and girls, and it includes Emma Frost. And then he's like, he talks about how he has it. He's like, Alexander the Great conquered the world by the time he was 30. My only question is, what took him so long? And there's a smug little look on this kid's face, and I fucking hate it.
You fucking hate it.
I hate it.
The four kids, the four Hellfire Club kids leave. The girl has a Hannibal mask on because she is hardcore. Yeah. A helicopter has appeared to take them. And then all of the money that he promised the prisoners for beating up people, he says, he tells his bodyguards to, hey, go pay them. And the bodyguards have like weird laser Wolverine claws that say Zact.
Yeah, that's a classic thing from these guys. You, as a rich person who bribes people,
mm-hmm.
I don't think that works when you just say you're going to have the money and then you don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have been a lot more interesting as a villain if he just had this power because of money.
Yeah.
And he actually did pay off everybody.
Yeah. It's called the Kingpin. Like we got that guy. Yeah, we've literally got that dude.
Of those dudes. Yeah. Like in this version, he just has two guys beat up the entirety of Riker Island. off camera, and that's supposed to be, that's it. That's what explains it. And in the background, this is where we get the I invented 19 new Sentinels, and the little girl being like, more stabbing. And I just want to never read one of these comics again.
Never at all. It's a shame that Dupe is trapped here, because that's the send off in the last pages. Next issue, I love Dupe, and I'm like, oh, but these kids are going to be there. This sucks.
Yeah. The big twist here is after they leave, they're going to Westchester.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be the next, the recurring villain again for whatever the next arc of Wolverine the X-Men is. And I'm irritated by these kids. I don't like this as a tie-in, and I do not like it as an individual comic.
No. Art is okay. Writing was terrible. I'm glad, like you said, I never have to read a Wolverine and the X-Men comic book again. And, I had read some of that, and I don't even think I got as far as the AVX crossover before bouncing. And then went back recently, right before we started doing this, and was like, oh, I hate these kids. And now I feel completely justified in just never picking up that book again. I am A-okay without it.
Yeah. It's disappointing. It's something that was sold to me really hard. I mentioned that before. Just like, hey, this is the spiritual successor to Grant Morrison's run. And I don't think it is. I think out of the stuff that came in roughly that era that feels much closer to that to me is the Remender X-Force stuff, where it's still got those big trippy ideas, like the Remender version of the Four Horsemen, that weird, the Civil War little drummer boy guy, and that woman made of spiders. That's the good kind of trippy Grant Morrison idea to me.
Yes.
This is a little too cool for school for Gary.
I don't like it.
Bummer. Bummer.
And if you don't like it out there to the listener, you should go to patreon.com/ Duckfeed.tv.
If you don't like it, but you do like us.
Yeah. Donate some bucks. Support the network. Support your bros. If you can't do that, we totally understand. Maybe you have some X-Men friends. Maybe you have friends that have never heard about the X-Men, and you want to start them with this episode for some reason. That would be try that. Let's try something new, is what I'm saying.
Two guys that don't seem to like the X-Men.
Yeah. So they did
I assure you I love the X-Men. Yeah. I assure you I love X-Men.
But we appreciate it. Anything you can do to help us out is very much appreciated. We're going to be back with a better issue of this series, Avengers vs. X-Men 11, in just a couple of days.